Stop. Close your eyes for a second. If I ask you to imagine an angel, what do you see? A beautiful woman in white robes, a chubby baby with a golden bow, a halo of soft light. Delete that image. It is a lie. That is a fabrication of the Renaissance, a comforting mask painted by artists to keep you from screaming. The ancient texts describe something else entirely. They describe entities of burning, copper, and lightning. They describe wheels within wheels that defy physics. They describe creatures with 4 faces and wings, covered in eyes that never blink. There is a reason the first thing they say to humans is do not be afraid. It is because their true form is fuel for nightmares. In Teeth's areas, we are destroying the myth. We are ranking the heavenly host from the spies who walk among us unnoticed, to the cosmic horrors that circle the throne of God. Welcome to the true hierarchy. The greatest trick ever pulled in art history was not convincing the world that the devil didn't exist. It was convincing the world that angels were safe. Walk into any museum in Rome, Paris, or London. Look at the frescoes on the ceilings of the great cathedrals. You'll see a parade of humanity idealized. Perfect humanity, with swan wings glued to their shoulder blades. You will see the Puto, the infant angel, floating innocently on clouds. These images are aesthetically pleasing. They are designed to evoke a sense of peace, comfort, and maternal warmth. They tell us that heaven is a place of soft edges and gentle light. But this imagery is a relatively modern invention. It is a visual tranquilizer. When we strip away the paint of the Renaissance and return to the raw, unfiltered source material of the Near East, the Hebrew Bible, the book of Ezekiel, the apocalyptic visions of Daniel and John, we find ourselves staring into a void of absolute terror. The beings described in these texts do not elicit comfort. They elicit trauma. Consider the psychological state of every single human being in the Bible who encounters an angel. They do not smile. They do not feel a warm glow, te koyapsa. They fall into a catatonic state. They tremble so violently that their bones feel as if they are dissolving. The prophet Daniel, a man of immense spiritual fortitude, described his encounter with a heavenly messenger as a moment where his comeliness turned to corruption. He felt his very life force straining away, replaced by a sickness of the soul that comes from standing too close to a nuclear reactor. Why? Because the human mind is an evolutionary machine designed to process the physical world. We understand predators. We understand fire. We understand storms. But we do not understand entities that exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously. We do not understand beings that are composed not of flesh and blood, but of ontology and light. When a biblical angel manifests, it is an intrusion of the absolute reality into our fragile, relative reality. It is a glitch in the matrix. The uncanny valley is a concept in robotics, where a human-like replica looks almost real, but is off enough to cause revulsion. Biblical angels do not just sit in the uncanny valley. They dominate it. They are things that should not be. This series is an investigation into that horror. We are going to perform a power scaling of the celestial hierarchy, but not based on who can punch the hardest. We are ranking them based on their divergence from humanity. We are ranking them on how likely they are to shatter your sanity if you were to see them standing in your bedroom tonight. We will begin at the bottom, with rank 5, the Order of Angels, that has perfected the art of camouflage. These are the ones who look like us. They are the ones who could be your neighbor, your postman, or the stranger you sat next to on the bus. They are the Malaquim. But do not let their human appearance fool you. As we will discover, the ability to look human is not a weakness. It is their most dangerous weapon. The most terrifying monsters are not the ones with 1,000 teeth. The most terrifying monsters are the ones you invite into your home because you think they are your friends. The deception runs deep, and we are about to peel back the first layer. In our previous episode, we discussed the Malachim, the messengers. These are the angels you see in Renaissance paintings. Beautiful men without wings who can walk among us unnoticed. They are the spies of God. They eat, they speak, and they look like us. But as we climb higher up the celestial hierarchy, the human element begins to burn away. We are leaving the earth. Now, we are entering the throne room. And the first creatures we encounter here are not guardians. They are not warriors. They are the choir of the incinerator. Coming in at rank hash 4 on our list of biblically accurate angels are the Seraphim. To understand why the Seraphim are terrifying, you first have to understand their name. The word Seraphim, singular, seraph, comes from the ancient Hebrew verb which literally means to burn or to be set on fire. But the etymology goes deeper. In other parts of the Hebrew Bible, specifically in the book of Numbers, the word seraph is used to describe fiery serpents, venomous snakes whose bite feels like liquid fire. So, when we talk about seraphim, we are not talking about chubby babies with tiny wings. We are talking about the burning ones. We are talking about entities that are either made of pure fire or perhaps possess a reptilian dragon-like quality that ancient writers struggled to describe. Our primary source for these entities comes from the prophet Isaiah, chapter 6. This is one of the most visceral encounters in the entire Bible. Isaiah is not visited by an angel in his kitchen. He is transported in a vision to the temple of God. The scene is chaotic. The foundations of the doorposts are shaking. The room is filled with thick smoke, and hovering above the throne are the seraphim. Isaiah describes their anatomy with chilling precision. They are not the two-winged angels of Hallmark cards. They are six-winged monstrosities. Each had 6 wings. With 2 he covered his face, and with 2 he covered his feet, and with 2 he flew. This description is a masterpiece of theological horror. Why the extra wings? The first pair covers their faces. This implies that the glory of God is so radioactive, so blindingly intense, that even the highest order of angels cannot look directly at it without being destroyed. They must shield their eyes to survive their proximity to the source. The second pair covers their feet. In ancient Hebrew, feet is often a euphemism for the genitalia or the lower body. This suggests a gesture of extreme humility, a desperate attempt to cover their creaturely shame in the presence of absolute perfection. Only with the third pair do they fly. They are hovering in a state of constant, frantic motion, maintaining their position in the smoke. But the most terrifying aspect of the seraphim is not what they look like. It is what they sound like. They are not singing a gentle lullaby. They are shouting. Isaiah says they are calling out to one another in a voice so loud it shakes the architecture of the temple. Holy, holy, holy is the Lord of hosts. The whole earth is full of his glory. This is the Trisa Yanda, threefold repetition. In Hebrew culture, to say something 3 times is the superlative degree. They aren't just saying God is holy. They are screaming that he is the definition of holiness itself. It is a loop of eternal, deafening praise. The interaction between a human and a seraph is violent. When Isaiah sees them, his reaction is instant terror. He screams, "Woe is me, for I am lost." He realizes that a mortal man cannot survive in this environment. One of the seraphim breaks formation and flies toward him. In its hand, it holds a live cola-glowing ember taken directly from the altar of God. The angel does not offer comfort. It does not say, "Be not afraid." Instead, it takes the burning coal and presses it against Isaiah's lips. It sears his flesh. It cauterizes his mouth. The angel declares, "Behold, this has touched your lips. Your guilt is taken away, and your sin atoned for." This is the function of the seraphim. They are the agents of purification. But purification in the Bible is not a gentle bath. It is a refining fire. They burn away the impurity of the human soul so that it can stand in the presence of God without disintegrating. They are the spiritual equivalent of radiation therapy healing, but dangerous. The seraphim, at rank number 4, represent the boundary line between the safe and the unsafe. The malachim, rank number 5, bring messages to earth. The seraphim stay in the sky. They remind us that the divine is not a tame lion. It is a consuming fire, and the creatures that live closest to it have evolved into 6-winged infernos just to survive the heat. But as strange as a 6-winged Burning Man serpent is, it still has a face. It still has hands. It still has feet. As we move up the list to rank number 3, we will lose even those familiar comforts. We are about to encounter a creature that is a hybrid of biology and geometry. Chimera so bizarre that artists have struggled for 2,000 years to draw it without losing their minds. If you walk into any church in Europe or scroll through a Hallmark card aisle during Valentine's Day, you will see them. Chubby, naked babies with tiny wings, floating on clouds, perhaps holding a harp or a bow and arrow. We call them cherubs. They are the symbol of innocence, romance, and cuteness. But this image is a lie. It is an artistic invention from the Italian Renaissance, borrowed from the Roman god Cupid. The real cherubim of the Hebrew Bible are not cute. They are terrifying. They are not babies. They are the heavy infantry of heaven. They are the guardians of the forbidden, the carriers of the throne, and arguably the most biologically disturbing creatures in the entire celestial best. To understand the cherubim, we must go back to their very first appearance in the book of Genesis. After Adam and Eve are expelled from the Garden of Eden, God does not put up a fence. He places a cherubim at the entrance to guard the tree of life. And this cherub isn't holding a harp. It is holding a flaming sword that turned every way. This entity is a lethal security system designed to kill anything that tries to re-enter paradise. But what do they look like? For that, we turn to the prophet Ezekiel. In Ezekiel chapter 1 and chapter 10, the prophet encounters the mobile throne of God. Supporting this throne are 4 living creatures. Ezekiel later identifies them explicitly as cherubim. His description destroys the baby angel myth instantly. Ezekiel describes them as having a general human form standing upright, but that is where the similarity ends. Each cherub has 4 faces: the face of a man, the face of a lion, the face of an ox, and the face of an eagle. Imagine a creature where you can see all 4 of these distinct biological profiles simultaneously. It is a chimera hybrid of the apex predators of Earth. They do not have 2 wings like the seraphim. They have 4 wings. 2 are stretched upward to touch the wings of the other cherubim, creating a canopy and to cover their bodies. Beneath these wings, Ezekiel notes, they have human hands, but the body horror continues. Their legs are not human. Ezekiel writes, their legs were straight, and the soles of their feet were like the sole of a calf's foot, and they sparkled like burnished bronze. They have hooves, and then there are the eyes. Just like the seraphim, the cherubim are covered in eyes. Ezekiel 10:12 states, their whole body, their backs, their hands, their wings, and the wheels were full of eyes all around. This is a creature of hype. In the ancient world, eyes represented knowledge and vigilance. A guard with eyes on its back, its wings, and its hands cannot be surprised. It sees everything in every spectrum, in every dimension, all at once. It is the ultimate sentinel. The function of the cherubim is distinct from the seraphim. While the seraphim are concerned with purification and praise, the cherubim are concerned with protection and transport. They are the bearers of God's presence. In the Old Testament, God is frequently described as he who sits enthroned between the cherubim. This refers to the Ark of the Covenant. The golden lid of the Ark featured 2 golden cherubim facing each other, their wings touching. The Israelites understood that the space between the cherubim was the most dangerous spot on earth. It was the epicenter of holiness. If you approached it incorrectly, you died. This puts the cherub in a totally different light. They are not love matchmakers. They are the boundary keepers. They represent the terrifying reality that God is unapproachable. They are the biological firewall that prevents sinful humanity from accidentally walking into the nuclear reactor of God's glory and being vaporized. The cherubim remind us that the divine realm is not just spiritual light. It is wild. It incorporates the lion, the ox, and the eagle. It is a place where biology is remixed into forms that human minds struggle to comprehend. But even the 4-faced cherubim are still recognizable as creatures. They have faces, they have wings, they have hands. As we descend deeper into Ezekiel's vision for our next episode, we leave biology behind entirely. We are about to encounter an entity that has no face, no wings, and no voice. It is a creature of pure geometry and physics. We have looked at the burning seraphim and the 4-faced cherubim. As bizarre as those creatures are, they still possess recognizable biological features: wings, faces, hands, feet. They are creatures in a sense we can understand. But now, we cross the final threshold of human comprehension. We arrive at an entity so abstract so removed from terrestrial biology that it resembles a piece of cosmic machinery more than a living being. These are the Ophanim. The wheels, the description of the Ophanim, comes from the same vision of Ezekiel that introduced us to the cherubim. Ezekiel is struggling to process the sheer scale of the divine chariot hovering before him. He sees the four-faced cherubim supporting the throne structure, but then he looks down to the earth. Right beside these living creatures, Ezekiel writes, "Now, as I looked at the living creatures, I saw a wheel on the earth beside the living creatures, one for each of the four of them." A wheel. The Hebrew word is Ophan, but this is not a wooden cartwheel. Ezekiel describes their appearance as gleaming like beryl or chrysolite. They are constructed from a precious, translucent gemstone that glows with internal light. They are massive structures of crystallized energy. But the true terror of the Ophanim lies in their structure. Ezekiel struggles to describe it, using a phrase that has baffled artists for millennia, their construction being, as it were, a wheel within a wheel. Imagine a gyroscope, one massive ring standing vertically, and another massive ring inserted horizontally inside it, intersecting perfectly. This structure allows for impossible movement. They do not need to turn like a car. They can move instantly in any of the four cardinal directions without pivoting. They exist in a state of omnidirectional readiness. Ezekiel notes their size with a trembling hand. He says their rims were so high that they were dreadful. These are not human-sized objects. They are monolithic, towering structures of spinning light that dwarf the human observer. And, inevitably, the eyes return. Just like the cherubim and seraphim, the Ophanim are networked into the divine surveillance system. Ezekiel writes, "Their rims were full of eyes all around. Imagine a gemstone gyroscope, hundreds of feet tall, spinning silently, its outer rims studded with thousands of unblinking eyes staring in every direction. It is a panopticon of divine judgment. But are they alive? Are they just machines? The Bible suggests they are sentient." Ezekiel makes a crucial statement. When the living creatures' cherubim went, the wheels went beside them. And when the living creatures rose from the earth, the wheels rose. Wherever the Spirit wanted to go, they went. For the spirit of the living creatures was in the wheels. There is a symbiotic consciousness connecting the biological cherubim with the geometrical. They move in perfect, instantaneous unison because they share a spirit. The Ophanim are the interface between the biological and the mechanical in the heavenly realm. In later Jewish mysticism Kabbalah, the Ophanim are elevated to a high rank of angels, charged with maintaining the cosmic psychesia, movement of stars and planets. They are the gears of the universe, sentient clockwork that keeps reality ticking. The Ophanim represent the ultimate alien nature of God. They remind us that the divine is not just a bigger human. It is physics, it is math, and it is conscious geometry operating on a scale that we find dreadful. We have now met the strangest inhabitants of the throne room. But a hierarchy needs more than just throne guardians. It needs enforcers. It needs generals. We have spent the last few episodes looking at angels that defy description, creatures of fire, multi-faced chimeras, and spinning wheels of eyes. These are the throne guardians, existing in a state of eternal worship. But the Bible describes another reality. It describes a cosmos at war. There is a rebellion actively engaged against the throne. And you do not send a spinning wheel to fight a war. You send a soldier. Enter Michael. Michael is distinct from the creatures we have met so far. He is never described with 6 wings, 4 faces, or as a wheel. When he appears in visions, particularly to Daniel, he is described as a man. Though one of terrifying presence, he belongs to the order that looks like us, but possesses power that can level empires. He is the only angel in the Standard Bible explicitly called an archangel Hude Una Nuebe. The prefix arch means chief or ruler. He is the chief messenger, the commander. His name is a rhetorical question. Michael means who is like God. It is a battle cry. It is a direct challenge to Satan, whose primary sin was desiring to be like God. Michael's very existence is a violent reminder that no one equals the Creator. We first meet Michael in the book of Daniel, and the context is purely military. Daniel has been fasting and praying for 3 weeks, receiving no answer. Finally, An angel appears, likely Gabriel. He tells Daniel that he was delayed. Why? Because the prince of the kingdom of Persia withstood him for 21 days. This gives us a terrifying glimpse into spiritual warfare. There are dark, fallen angelic powers assigned to earthly nations, manipulating human politics. The Prince of Persia was a demonic entity powerful enough to stalemate a high-ranking messenger of God for 3 weeks. The stalemate was only broken when backup arrived. The angel tells Daniel, "But then Michael, one of the chief princes, came to help me, because I was detained there with the king of Persia." Michael is the heavy hitter. He is the entity God sends when the regular angelic forces are outmatched. He is the breaker of spiritual deadlocks. In the New Testament, his role as the enforcer is cemented. The book of Jude mentions a strange incident where Michael contends with the devil over the body of Moses. He is the guardian of God's property, the one who stands toe-to-toe with the highest powers of darkness. But his most famous moment is in the future tense. In the book of Revelation, chapter 12, the final cosmic war breaks out. Then war broke out in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon and his angels fought back. But he was not strong enough, and they lost their place in heaven. This is Michael's defining role. He is the dragon slayer. He is the general of the armies of heaven. He is not playing a harp. He is leading a violent ejection of rebel forces from the celestial realm. Michael represents the martial aspect of the divine. He is the sword of God. He reminds us that in the biblical worldview, peace is not the default state of the universe. Peace is something that must be fought for and enforced by beings of immense power who are willing to engage in violence on a cosmic scale. Michael is the archetype of the holy warrior disciplined, terrifyingly powerful, and absolutely loyal to the throne he defends. We have met the warrior, Michael. We have met the burning seraphim and the grinding Ophanim. Now, we turn to the figure most people think they know. The angel on the Christmas card. The angel with the trumpet, the bringer of glad tidings. Gabriel. In pop culture, Gabriel is soft. He is the gentle announcer. But if you actually read the texts, a visit from Gabriel is a traumatic event. He is not a mailman dropping off a letter. He is a cosmic event breaking into linear time. When Gabriel arrives, people do not smile. Te collapse. Gabriel's name means God is my strength, or Gabriel, the mighty man of God. Unlike the monstrous cherubim, Gabriel usually appears in the form of a man. But this man has a presence so overwhelming that it shatters the human nervous system. We first meet Gabriel in the book of Daniel, chapter 8. Daniel has just seen a terrifying vision of a ram and a goat destroying the world. He's confused, sick with dread. Suddenly, he hears a human voice calling out from the banks of the Ulai Canal. Gabriel, make this man understand the vision. When Gabriel approaches, Daniel does not greet him. He writes, "As he came near the place where I was standing, I was terrified and fell prostrate." This is the standard reaction. Absolute terror. Gabriel has to physically touch Daniel to revive him, lifting him to his feet like a rat. But the encounter takes a toll. At the end of the chapter, Daniel writes, "I, Daniel, was worn out. I lay exhausted for several days." Think about that. A conversation with Gabriel caused physical illness and days of bedridden exhaustion. The sheer density of the information, the weight of the presence, was almost lethal to a mortal mind. Fast forward 500 years to the Gospel of Luke. A priest named Zechariah is serving in the Holy Temple. He is alone in the sanctuary, burning incense. Suddenly, an angel appears, standing at the right side of the altar. Zechariah is gripped with fear. The angel has to deploy the most common phrase in angelic history. Do not be afraid. This phrase is necessary because fear is the only logical reaction to seeing a multidimensional being squeezed into 3 dimensions. Gabriel tells Zechariah that he will have a son, John the Baptist. Zechariah, in his shock, asks a skeptical question. Gabriel's response is chilling. He drops the pleasantries and pulls rank. "I am Gabriel. I stand in the presence of God." It is a statement of absolute authority. I stand in the glare of the uncreated light. Do not question me. As punishment for his doubt, Gabriel strikes Zechariah. The priest leaves the temple unable to speak, a living testament to the power of the messenger. 6 months later, Gabriel is sent to a young woman in Nazareth named Mary. This is the Annunciation. Art history paints this as a serene moment, Mary reading a book, Gabriel kneeling politely, but the text says Mary was greatly troubled. The Greek word implies inner turmoil, confusion, and deep anxiety. She is looking at a being that defies reality. Gabriel has to calm her down before he can even deliver the news of the virgin birth. Gabriel represents the intellectual power of God. While Michael is the physical force, the arm, Gabriel is the revealer of secrets, the mouth. He is the one who explains the why and the when. He decodes the complex visions of the end times for Daniel. He announces the arrival of the new era to Mary. He is the opener of the portal. When Gabriel speaks, history changes course. Empires fall, Persia, Greece, and messiahs are born. He is the catalyst. The terror of Gabriel is the terror of truth. He brings news that you cannot ignore, news that will disrupt your life, destroy your plans, and change the world forever. He is the reminder that God has a plan, and that plan does not care about your comfort. It only cares about fulfillment. We have explored the angels created before the dawn of time. But now, we venture into the forbidden library of Jewish mysticism, the Kabbalah, and the apocryphal texts too. Find an angel who is unique in the celestial hierarchy. He is unique because he wasn't born an angel. He was born a man. His name is Metatron. You won't find the name Metatron in the standard Protestant Bible, but his human name is there. In the book of Genesis, Enoch, Genesis 5:24 contains one of the most mysterious sentences in Scripture. Enoch walked faithfully with God. Then he was no more, because God took him. He didn't die. He was taken. Where did he go? The ancient texts, specifically the 3rd book of Enoch, tell the terrifying story of his ascension. Enoch was lifted bodily into heaven to serve as the scribe of God. But a human body made of meat and bone cannot survive in the high-voltage environment of the throne room. So Enoch had to be processed. He had to be upgraded. The text describes a transformation of Cronenbergian horror and beauty. God commands the angels to open Enoch's body. His flesh is turned into flame. His veins are turned into channels of light. His bones are turned into embers of juniper. His eyes are turned into torches. He grows 72 wings, and on each wing are 36,000 eyes. He ceases to be Enoch. He becomes Metatron is given a title that makes even the highest angels tremble, Yahweh Hokatan, or the lesser YHWH. This is a theological bombshell. It suggests he is the acting vice-regent of heaven, the one who sits on a throne next to the throne of glory. He speaks with the authority of God himself. His job is monumental. He is the celestial scribe. He records the deeds of all humanity in the heavenly books. He teaches the secrets of the universe to the other angels. He is the ultimate keeper of knowledge. But his existence is controversial. In a famous Talmudic story, a great rabbi named Elisha ben Abuya is allowed to visit heaven in a vision. He sees Metatron sitting down. This is a problem. In heaven, no one sits except God. The angels always stand. Seeing Metatron sitting, the rabbi concludes that there are 2 powers in heaven. A heresy. He thinks Metatron is a second god. To prove this isn't true, God orders Metatron to be punished. The angel is dragged out and struck with 60 lashes of fire to show that, despite his power, he is still a servant. He is still subject to the One. Metatron represents the ultimate potential of humanity. He is the proof that the barrier between the human and the divine is permeable. He shows us that if a human being gets close enough to the fire of God, they don't just get burned, they get transmuted. They become something else entirely. He is the bridge. He remembers what it was like to be hungry, to be tired, to be mortal. But now, he looks down on the earth with eyes of fire, pen in hand, writing the history of the species he left behind. Metatron is a figure of cosmic loneliness. He is too holy for earth, but he is an immigrant in heaven. He stands in the gap, the eternal witness to the drama of existence. He is the librarian of reality. ensuring that nothing, no tear, no prayer, no sin is ever forgotten. We have met the warrior Michael and the messenger Gabriel, but there is a third archangel recognized in ancient tradition, one whose methods are far more subtle. He does not carry a flaming sword, and he does not shout from the heavens. He infiltrates. His name is Raphael. Raphael means God heals. He is the divine physician, the surgeon of the heavenly host. But unlike the terrifying appearances of the other archangels, Rapha prefers to work undercover. To understand him, we must open the Book of Tobit. This is a book found in the Catholic and Orthodox Bibles, but often removed from Protestant versions. It reads less like a sermon and more like a fantasy adventure novel. The story follows a young man named Tobias who is sent on a dangerous journey to retrieve money for his blind father. He needs a guide. A stranger appears, calling himself Azarias. He claims to be a distant relative, a safe travel companion. This Azarias is actually Raphael in disguise. This is a crucial detail. Michael and Gabriel usually terrify humans instantly with their glory. Raphael suppresses his glory. He walks, talks, and eats with Tobias 4 weeks, an axe-human. This makes him perhaps the most unnerving of the archangels. He could be the stranger sitting next to you on a bus, and you would never know. During their journey, they stop by the Tigris River. A massive fish jumps out of the water and tries to swallow Tobias's foot. Raphael orders Tobias to catch the fish and gut it. He instructs him to keep the heart, liver, and gall. Why? Because they are medicine and weapons. This brings us to the horror element of Raphael's story. Tobias is on his way to marry a woman named Sarah. But Sarah is cursed. She has been married 7 times before. On the wedding night of every single marriage, a demon named Asmodeus appeared in the bedroom and killed the husband before the marriage could be consummated. Sarah is haunted by a jealous lover demon. Raphael instructs Tobias to burn the fish's heart and liver on incense coals when he enters the bridal chamber. The smoke, empowered by angelic knowledge, acts as a chemical weapon against the spiritual entity. When Asmodeus smells the smoke, he flees. But Raphael does not just let him run. The text says Raphael chases the demon all the way to Upper Egypt and binds him there. This reveals Raphael's dual nature. Isaiah later uses the fish gall to cure the blindness of Tobias's father boot. He is also a chaotic force against darkness. He binds demons, he travels vast distances in seconds, he manipulates biological matterfish organs to create supernatural effects. Raphael represents the providence of God. He shows that help is often disguised. He is the angel of travelers, the blind, and the sick. In the Book of Enoch, Raphael is given an even darker task. After the fallen angels corrupt the earth, God commands Raphael to bind Azazel hand and foot and cast him into the darkness. He is the jailer of the fallen. He throws the rebel angel into a pit in the desert and covers him with jagged rocks. Raphael is the silent operator. He is the special forces medic who can patch you up or take out the enemy, all while wearing a disguise that makes him look like just another traveler on the road. He reminds us that the supernatural is not always up there. Sometimes it is walking right beside us, waiting for the right moment to reveal itself. Now, we must look at the empty seats in the choir. We must look at the ones who left. They are called the Greek Watchers. Their story is briefly mentioned in Genesis 6, but it is expanded in terrifying detail in the Book of Enoch. This is the origin story of all monsters. The Watchers were a specific class of angels sent to Earth to observe humanity. They were meant to be silent overseers, educators, and guardians. But something went wrong. They didn't just watch. They wanted. The text says that 200 Watchers, led by a captain named Samyaza, descended onto the summit of Mount Hermon. They made a pact, a mutual curse. They swore to abandon their heavenly stations and commit the ultimate taboo. They wanted to mate with human women. This was not a war of hate, like Lucifer's rebellion. This was a war of lust. It was a corruption of the biological order. The Watchers took human wives, but because angelic DNA is not compatible with human biology, the offspring were not normal children. They were the Nephilim. The Nephilim were giants. The text describes them as being thousands of cubits tall. They were ravenous. They ate all the food the humans produced. When the food ran out, they turned on the humans. They began to eat people. And finally, they began to eat each other and drink blood. This is the biblical explanation for the flood of Noah. The flood wasn't just about humans being bad. It was a planetary fumigation to wipe out a hybrid species that was devouring the ecosystem. But the Watchers didn't just bring giants. They brought forbidden technology. One of the leaders, named Azazel, taught men how to make swords, knives, and shields, introducing the concept of organized warfare. He taught women how to use mirrors, jewelry, and cosmetics, introducing vanity and seduction. Other Watchers taught sorcery, astrology, and the reading of signs. The Watchers are the archetypes of the Promethean figure, bringing fire to humanity, but burning the house down in the process. They accelerated human civilization, but towards destruction. God's response was brutal. He sent the archangels, Michael, Gabriel, Raphael, and Uriel, to arrest the Watchers. They were not killed angels, cannot die. They were imprisoned. Raphael bound Azazel in the desert. Michael bound Semyaza and his associates under the hills of the earth for 70 generations until the day of judgment. The horror of the Watchers lies in their tragedy. They were created to be the guardians of humanity, but they became its predators. They fell because they fell in love with the very things they were supposed to protect. They are currently described as being chained in Tartarus, waiting in darkness. But the legacy of their children, the Nephilim, haunts the rest of the Bible. Goliath was a descendant of this bloodline. The Watchers remind us that the angelic hierarchy is not safe. Even the sons of God can become monsters if they cross the boundary between the spiritual and the material. And somewhere, deep beneath the earth, in a prison of spiritual darkness, 200 ancient entities are still waiting, remembering the days when they walked on mountains and taught men how to kill. If Michael is the general, Gabriel is the messenger, and Raphael is the medic, then Uriel is the warden. His name means God is my light, or fire of God. Unlike the other three archangels, Uriel does not appear by name in the standard Protestant Bible. To find, you have to look into the Apocrypha, specifically the books of Esdras and the book of Enoch. And what we find there is terrifying. Uriel is not a comforter. He is the strictest of all the angels. He is the regulator of cosmic laws, the guardian of the gates, and the one who holds the keys to the prison of the fallen. In Christian tradition and art, Uriel is often identified as the cherub standing at the gates of Eden in Genesis 3. When Adam and Eve are kicked out, God places a cherub with a flaming sword flashing back and forth to guard the way to the tree of life. That is Uriel. He is the bouncer of paradise. He is the reason humanity cannot go back. But his role expands significantly in the book of Enoch. While Michael binds the fallen angels, it is Uriel who is put in charge of the world and of Tartarus. Tartarus is the deepest pit of the underworld. Uriel is the jailer. He watches over the Titans, the Watchers, who corrupted humanity. He ensures they stay in the darkness until Judgment Day. This paints a grim picture. Uriel is the angel who stands in the dark, so the others can stand in the light. He is the distinct, unyielding line between order and chaos. In the book of Enoch, Uriel also acts as a tour guide to hell. He takes Enoch on a terrifying journey through the cosmos. He shows him the storehouses of the winds, the paths of the stars, and the places of punishment. Uriel is described as the angel over thunder and terror. When Enoch sees a terrifying place where stars of heaven, fallen angels, are burning like great mountains, he is frightened. Uriel asks him, "Why are you alarmed at this? This is the place where the angels who have transgressed the command of the Lord are punished." Uriel's tone is clinical. He does not weep for the fallen. He simply explains the physics of divine justice. In later literature, specifically John Milton's Paradise Lost, Uriel is described as the regent of the sun. He lives inside the sun. He has the sharpest eyes in all of heaven. It is Uriel who spots Satan trying to sneak into Eden disguised as a cherub. His vision pierces through all disguises. This connects back to his name, Fire of God. Uriel represents the intellectual, illuminating fire of truth. You cannot lie to him. You cannot hide from him. He is the celestial building inspector who checks the foundations of the universe to make sure everything is running according to code. In the Apocalypse of Peter, an early Christian text that didn't make it into the Bible, Uriel's role becomes even more graphic. In the end times, Uriel is the one who breaks the bronze bars of Hades. He drags the souls of sinners out to judgment. He is described as placing the idolaters into an everlasting fire. He is the angel of repentance. But in the scary sense, he is the one you meet when it is too late to repent. Uriel reminds us that the angelic hierarchy is not just about fighting wars or delivering babies. It is about administration. The universe is a complex machine of moral laws, gravity, and thermodynamics. Someone has to watch the gauges. Someone has to make sure the sun rises on time and the prison doors stay locked. That someone is Uriel, the angel with the face of the sun and the heart of a judge. We have all seen the grim reaper, a skeleton in a black robe holding a scythe. But the Bible has its own version of the angel of death. It doesn't have a scythe. It doesn't have a skeleton face. It is something far more efficient. In Hebrew, it is called the Mashet, the destroyer. This is not a name, it is a job title, and it is arguably the most lethal entity in the entire scripture. The most famous appearance of the Mashet is in the book of Exodus, chapter 12. The 10th plague, God tells Moses that at midnight, every firstborn son in the land of Egypt will die, from the son of Pharaoh to the son of the prisoner in the dungeon. To save the Israelites, they are told to paint the blood of a lamb on their doorframes. Verse 23 gives us a chilling detail. When the Lord goes through the land to strike down the Egyptians, he will see the blood on the top and sides of the doorframe and will pass over that doorway. And he will not permit the destroyer to enter your houses and strike you down. Notice the distinction. He, God, will not permit the destroyer to enter. This implies that the Mashit is a separate entity from God. It is a biological weapon on a leash. Once it is released, it kills everything in its path, unless God explicitly blocks it. It is an indiscriminate force of termination. We cannot talk about angels without talking about him. Pop culture depicts him as a red man with horns, a goat's tail, and a pitchfork. He rules hell like a CEO. But this image is medieval fan fiction. It has nothing to do with the Bible. The Bible describes an entity far more terrifying because he is far more beautiful. Before he was Satan, the adversary, or the devil, the slanderer, he had a name, Elel Ben Sah, the Shining One, Son of the Morning. In Latin, Lucifer. To understand what he looked like, we must turn to the lament in Ezekiel 28. While technically addressed to the king of Tyre, scholars agree the language goes far beyond a human king. It describes a celestial being. You were the seal of perfection, full of wisdom and perfect in beauty. You were in Eden, the garden of God. Every precious stone was your covering: sardius, topaz, and diamond, beryl, onyx, and jasper, sapphire, turquoise, and emerald with gold. He wasn't red. He was a living prism. He was covered in gemstones that refracted the glory of God. But here is the detail that makes musicians tremble. The text continues. The workmanship of your timbrels and pipes was prepared for you on the day you were created. Some translations suggest his very body was an instrument. He was created to process the worship of heaven. He was the conductor of the celestial choir. When imobed, amed music. And his rank, he wasn't just an angel. Ezekiel says, "You are the anointed cherub who covers. I established you. You were on the holy mountain of God. You walked back and forth in the midst of fiery stones." He was a cherub. Remember episode 3, the four-faced, four-winged chimera. Lucifer was likely one of the creatures guarding the very throne of God. He was the covering cherub, the one closest to the glory. He stood in the fire, and he did not burn. So, what went wrong? It wasn't a war of monsters. It was a war of ego. Isaiah 14 describes the internal monologue of the fall. 5 times, Lucifer says, I will ascend into heaven. I will exalt my throne above the stars of God. I will sit on the mount of the congregation. I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. I will be like the Most High. He didn't want to destroy God. He wanted to be God. He became intoxicated by his own beauty. The very gemstones that were meant to reflect God's light began to absorb it. He stopped reflecting and started absorbing. The result was instantaneous. Jesus said in Luke 10:18, "I saw Satan fall like lightning from heaven." It wasn't a slow descent, it was a violent ejection. The masterpiece of God was cast down to the earth. But here is the scary part. He did not lose his power. He did not lose his intelligence. He only lost his position. The Bible warns us in 2 Corinthians 11:14 that Satan himself masquerades as an angel of light. This is why he is so effective. If he appeared as a monster, you would run, but he appears as a beautiful idea. He appears as enlightenment. He appears as the solution to your problems. He is still the shining one, but the light is cold. It is radioactive. Lucifer represents the tragedy of potential. He was the highest of all created beings, the prime minister of heaven, but his fall created the shadow that now covers the world. He is the reminder that beauty is not the same as goodness, and intelligence is not the same as wisdom. The war he started in heaven is now being fought on earth, and his primary weapon is not fear. It is deception. He wants you to believe that you, too, can be like the Most High. We have looked at cosmic horrors, burning wheels, and fallen princes. But there is one question that haunts the human mind more than any other. Is there one for me? Do we have guardian angels? Or is this just a bedtime story we tell children to make them feel safe in the dark? The concept is popular in folklore, but does it hold up to scrutiny in the ancient texts? The answer is a complicated yes. The strongest evidence comes from the mouth of Jesus himself. In Matthew 18:10, while warning his disciples not to mistreat children, he says, "See that you do not despise one of these little ones. For I tell you that their angels in heaven always see the face of my Father in heaven." Notice the possessive pronoun, they're angels. Not the angels, they're angels. This implies a specific assignment. It suggests that there are angelic entities assigned to individuals, particularly the vulnerable children, believers. And these angels have a unique clearance level. They always see the face of the Father. They have a direct line to the CEO. We see this played out in the book of Acts, chapter 12. The Apostle Peter is thrown into prison by King Herod, scheduled for execution. The church is praying for him. Suddenly, an angel appears in the cell. Chains fall off. Doors open automatically. Peter walks out past the guards, thinking he is dreaming. He goes to the house where the believers are praying and knocks on the door. A servant girl named Rhoda answers, hears Peter's voice, and runs back to tell everyone. Peter is at the door. They don't believe her. They say, "You are out of your mind." When she insists, they offer a chilling alternative explanation. It must be his angel. This reveals the theology of the early church. They believed so strongly in personal guardian angels that they thought it was more likely that Peter's angel doppelganger was knocking on the door than Peter himself. But what do these guardians actually do? Psalm 91 gives the job description. "For he will command his angels concerning you to guard you in all your ways. They will lift you up in their hands, so that you will not strike your foot against a stone." They are the invisible secret service. They operate in the milliseconds between an accident and a disaster. They are the sudden urge to change lanes. They are the delay that makes you miss a flight that later crashes. However, the Bible does not depict them as genies. They do not grant wishes. They do not stop every bad thing from happening. Stephen was stoned to death. Paul was shipwrecked. Peter was eventually crucified upside down. So, where were their angels then? The ancient Jewish view is that angels are not just bodyguards. They are also witnesses. They are recording devices. Ecclesiastes 5-6 warns us, "Do not let your mouth lead you into sin. Do not say in the presence of the angel that it was a mistake." This changes the tone entirely. Your guardian angel is watching you. Always. They see you when you are sleeping. They see you when you are sinning. They are gathering evidence. Teasdwell role protector and recorder makes the guardian angel a figure of intense intimacy and slight paranoia. You are never truly alone. There is a being that has been with you since birth. It knows your darkest secrets and your terrifying moments. It stands between you and the terror of the night. Psalm 91 banding 5. It fights invisible wars in your bedroom while you sleep. It is comforting to think we are not alone in a hostile universe. But it is also sobering to realize that our lives are being observed by a multi-dimensional intelligence that answers to a higher authority than us. Why do nations go to war? Why do certain regions of the world seem trapped in cycles of violence that last for thousands of years? We tend to blame politics, resources, or religion. But the Bible offers a far more disturbing explanation. It suggests that the map of the world is not just divided by human borders, it is divided by spiritual entities. This is the concept of the princes of the nations. To understand this, we have to go back to a strange verse in the Old Testament that most people miss. Deuteronomy 32:8. When the Most High gave the nations their inheritance, when he divided all mankind, he set up boundaries for the peoples according to the number of the sons of God. ESV, Dead Sea Scrolls. This refers to the Tower of Babel. When humanity rebelled, God didn't just confuse their languages. He divorced the nations. He disinherited them and assigned them to the oversight of the sons of God, members of the divine council. God kept one nation for himself, Israel. The other nations, Egypt, Babylon, Canaan, Persia, were placed under the management of lesser spiritual beings. These beings were supposed to be administrators, but they went rogue. Instead of leading the nations to God, they demanded worship for themselves. They became the gods of mythology: Ra, Marduk, Baal, Zeus. The Bible argues that these weren't imaginary friends. They were Re'ar, fallen angelic entities governing specific territories. We see the terrifying reality of this in Daniel 10, a chapter we touched on earlier with Michael. Daniel is praying in Babylon, modern da Iraq. An angel comes to him and apologizes for being late. He says, "The prince of the Persian kingdom resisted me 21 days. This prince of Persia was not a human king. A human king cannot fight a spirit. It was a spiritual entity, a fallen angel, that had legal authority over the Persian Empire. It was powerful enough to block a messenger of God." The angel then tells Daniel, "Soon I will return to fight against the prince of Persia, and when he go, the prince of Greece will come." This is cosmic geography. It implies that behind every major superpower in history, there is a dark intelligence pulling the strings. When Alexander the Great conquered the world, it wasn't just a military victory. It was the prince of Greece taking territory from the prince of Persia. Psalm 82 depicts God holding a trial for these corrupt administrators. God presides in the great assembly. He renders judgment among the gods. How long will you defend the unjust and show partiality to the wicked? You are gods. You are all sons of the Most High. But you will die like mere mortals. You will fall like every other ruler. This changes how we view history. It suggests that human wars are merely the physical shadows of a much larger war happening in the second heaven. The chaos in the Middle East, the rise and fall of empires, the sudden shifts in global culture, these are moves on a chessboard, played by entities that have been alive since before the flood. The Apostle Paul confirms this in the New Testament. In Ephesians 6:12, he writes, "For our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the powers of this dark world, and against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms." The word principalities, archons, refers to high-ranking officials. We are not fighting people. We are fighting the princes. This worldview is terrifying because it means we are caught in the crossfire. But it also explains the spiritual atmosphere of certain cities. Why does Las Vegas feel different than Jerusalem? Why does a concentration camp feel different than a cathedral? Because the prince ruling that geography influences the culture, the laws, and the behavior of the people living there. The princes are still here. They have just changed their names. They no longer ask for blood sacrifices on stone altars. Now they ask for it on the battlefields of geopolitics. Throughout this series, we have seen angels as messengers, warriors, and guardians. They have been mostly reactive, fixing problems, delivering news, or fighting in the shadows. But in the final book of the Bible, the book of Revelation, the angelic role changes completely. They stop being the silent guardians. They become the executioners. In Revelation 8, the seventh seal is opened, and there is silence in heaven for about half an hour. Think about that. The seraphim stop crying holy. The cherubim stop moving. Absolute, terrifying silence. Why? Because 7 angels are being given 7 trumpets, and when they blow them, the world as we know it ends. This is the deconstruction of creation. When the first angel blows his trumpet, hail and fire mixed with blood are hurled down on the earth. A third of the earth is burned up. When the second angel blows, something like a huge mountain, all ablaze, is thrown into the sea. A third of the sea turns to blood. When the third angel blows, a great star, blazing like a torch, falls from the sky on a third of the rivers, turning the water bitter. This is not a gentle transition. This is an orbital bombardment managed by angelic intelligence. But the true horror begins with the 5th trumpet. Revelation 9:1 says, "The 5th angel sounded his trumpet, and I saw a star that had fallen from the sky to the earth." The star was given the key to the shaft of the abyss. This star is an angel. He unlocks the bottomless pit. Smoke rises out of it, like smoke from a gigantic furnace, darkening the sun. And out of the smoke come locusts. But these aren't normal insects. John describes them as nightmares. They look like horses prepared for battle. They have faces like human faces. They have hair like women's hair. They have teeth like lions' teeth. They have tails with stingers like scorpions. And they have a king. Revelation 9:11 names him. They had as king over them the angel of the abyss, whose name in Hebrew is Abaddon, and in Greek is Apollyon. Tenamameon's the destroyer. At the end of time, the key is turned. Abaddon is released. His mission is specific. Torture. The locusts are commanded not to kill people, but to torture them for 5 months. This episode reveals the darkest function of angels. They are the reapers. They are the ones who separate the wheat from the weeds. They are the ones who throw the weeds into the fire. The trumpets remind us that history is not a random cycle. It is a linear story. It has a beginning, and it has a very loud, very violent end. And the ones holding the detonator are the 7 angels standing before God, waiting for the signal to blow. We've journeyed to the very top of the angelic ladder. We started with the Malachim, the messengers who looked just like us. We climbed past the fiery, 6-winged seraphim chanting, "Holy, holy." We witnessed the cherubim, those strange, 4-faced hybrid creatures. We gazed into the Ophanim, the terrifying wheels covered in eyes. We met the archangels Michael the warrior, Gabriel the messenger, Raphael the healer, and Uriel the watcher. We even glimpsed the darkness of the fallen angels. After seeing this entire cosmic army, one question still hangs in the air. Why? Why does God, the all-powerful creator, need bodyguards of flaming serpents and spinning wheels? Why doesn't he just do everything himself? The answer is surprisingly practical. It's all about voltage. In the Bible, God isn't some gentle old man floating on a cloud. He's described as a consuming fire. He is pure, uncreated energy, the raw source of all existence. If that raw power were to touch our physical reality directly, without any filter, reality itself would be annihilated. As God told Moses, "You cannot see my face, for no one can see me and live." Our universe simply can't handle the direct presence of its source. This is where the angelic hierarchy comes in. Think of it as a cosmic transformer. Just like a power plant uses a step-down transformer to deliver electricity safely to your home, so it does unblow up your phone charger. The angelic order steps down God's raw glory. The seraphim, closest to the throne, absorb the initial, overwhelming impact of God's holiness. They pass a reduced version of that energy to the cherubim. The cherubim pass it to the Ophanim, who pass it to the archangels, who then pass it to the Malachim. And finally, the Malachim can safely interact with us. They are a celestial buffer zone, a multi-layered shield that protects us from being vaporized by the sheer weight of the divine presence. But here's where the story takes a radical turn. A plot twist so profound that even the angels were stunned. For most of history, It was assumed angels were superior to humans. They're stronger, faster, smarter, and immortal. We're made from dust. They were made from fire. It seems like a clear-cut case, yet the New Testament completely flips this hierarchy on its head. In the book of 1 Corinthians, the Apostle Paul asks a shocking question. Do you not know that we will judge angels? Notice he doesn't say, we become angels. That's a common myth. Humans and angels are entirely different species. Paul is saying that humanity's ultimate destiny is far greater than that of the angels. How is this possible? The logic is simple, but world-changing. God never became an angel to save angels. God became a man, Jesus Christ. The book of Hebrews drives this point home, asking, to which of the angels did God ever say, you are my son? The answer is, none of them. Angels are servants. Humans are destined to be heirs. This explains the angels' deep fascination with us. The Bible says that angels long to look into these things, referring to the story of human redemption. They watch over us, te guardose, and they are captivated by our story. Why? Because we have something they don't. The chance for redemption. When an angel like Lucifer falls, that fall is permanent. There's no second chance. But when humans fall, God moves heaven and earth to bring us back. So all those biblically accurate angels, with their terrifying eyes, wings, and wheels, are not the main characters of the cosmic drama. They are the supporting cast. The Seraphim cover their faces because they know they are just the stage lighting. The Ophanim spin in their intricate dance because they are the stage mechanics. The archangels draw their swords because they are the security guards for the main event. And who is at the center of the stage? It's not a monster. It's not a wheel. It's a human, the God-man. And standing right there beside him, in the shocking conclusion to the biblical story, is us. We, the people made in God's image, not the Seraphim. Us. So the next time you see a painting of a cute baby angel with fluffy wings, remember the truth. Remember the fire. Remember the fear. But also remember that in the grand scheme of eternity, those fearsome, multidimensional beings are the supporting cast in your story. And that concludes our deep dive into the terrifying reality of biblically accurate angels. We have stripped away the Renaissance paintings and looked directly into the ancient texts to find the monsters, the messengers, and the guardians that haunt our history. Now, I want to hear from you. We covered 16 distinct types and figures in this hierarchy. Which one terrified you the most? Was it the wheel with Inuel Ophanim, the four-faced cherubim, or the silent killer, the angel of death? Vote in the poll in the top corner, or let me know in the comments below. I'll be reading your theories on why ancient people saw these specific shapes in the sky. And please, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. If you survive this journey through the celestial hierarchy, destroy that like button. It helps us summon the algorithm. And if you haven't already, hit subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss our next investigation.